Hello, welcome to uh, that's the thanks for tuning in to the Spectre of Anti-Blackness. Um, so today we're watching the Underground Railroad again. We're continuing this series that we've been on for the past couple of weeks. Uh, Today we will be taking a look at episodes 5 and 6, chapters 5 and 6. Both collectively named Tennessee. This episode is Tennessee Exodus. So let's go ahead and get started on that. All right. So um, there's there's a lot in this one. This is the show as a whole isn't cheery, but this episode is definitely it ends on quite a somber note. Um, but there's a lot of important stuff going on here. Um, Firstly, I feel it's important to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about Homer. I don't think we can do the full Homer conversation quite yet, since we don't really, we're not at the pinnacle, we're not at the climax of his character. We haven't really wrapped up what's going on with him yet. But he gets a lot more characterization in this one than he's received in previous chapters. And basically, what that is we see him. They've set up camp for the night, and see Homer is the last one up, uh, and he's tending to the fire and that sort of thing. And he gets up, and he goes and he takes Ridgway's gun, um, which is kind of a tense moment when you first watch it. Like, what's up to this point, he's been shown to be pretty like you know um, unequivocally like um, with Ridgway, loyal to him, trusting to him. Um, so there's like a real quick seed planted. Like, has he been playing 5D chess this whole time? But no, he picks it up and just kind of like plays with it, like he pretends, shoots out into the woods, just because I guess he wants to learn how to shoot a gun because I don't know, he's a kid or whatever, he's interested in it. Um, and then he puts it back down where he got it. This is Ridgway's gun, by the way. And then he just goes and he goes to sleep. But he doesn't just like go and lie down. He chains himself up, which is profound. He's gained the trust of Ridgway. He is completely trusting with him, completely open with him, completely unguarded with him. And that the reason for that obviously is that he's got nothing to fear around Homer. He's completely submissive in the sort of way. There's no coming back from where Homer's at, I don't think. Um, he's his he puts his own chains on. His chains are in his mind. I do these kind of late at night. I'm sorry if this isn't as thought provoking as it could be, but you know I'm trying my best here. Um, so yeah, he chains himself up, which yeah, that's a thing. Um, Also worth talking about, was very significant in this episode. We saw him kind of at the end of the last episode. Um, one more thing about Homer though. We do learn about how he came into the service of Ridgway. Um, Ridgway bought him for $5. This baker was trying to pay off a debt or whatever, and Ridgway never owned a slave before, so he immediately frees him. but he follows after him. Like he doesn't, he tries to send him away many times, but he always comes back. And yeah, I mean, what else can really be said about that? I mean, so yeah, we've got a like that's like the crux of Homer there. We were kind of introduced to him at first, and now we're kind of getting like his full characterization here, and then we'll get the ending later. And now we'll talk about Jasper, who is he's the other escaped uh, indentured slave, enslaved person, the other escaped enslaved folk, and he's very skinny because he's refusing to eat, and he's singing a lot of hymns and like Negro spirituals, that sort of thing going on. Um, Essentially, what he's protesting. He's kind of doing like this. I believe what Hugh Newton would call a reactionary suicide, where he decides. Cora says he's given up, but he's like, nah. I'm free. He's finding the freedom that he can within his situation. Like he's doing what he can with it. Um, and he decides to take freedom in his own hands in this way of like the only thing that he has control over is himself, and then he's gonna just decide to wither away. Um, she says at a point where she's like, because he was kind of just singing the whole for like the first few nights or whatever, and then like he finally starts talking to her after she has this really nice moment, kind of backtracking, speaking to all of the people who have like been prominent in the show so far. Caesar, her mother, the Lovey, the other girl who ran away with him, Grace, um, both living and dead. These people, um, some she knows, some she doesn't, of their current living status. But regardless, um, she's like, you have been speaking all this time. I thought you were like funny in the head, and he's like, nah, that's you, man, because you keep running away, and like it's just you're getting the same outcome. So either you're the crazy one, or you're just stupid. Um, so we got some conflicting ideologies here. Um, Cora being the one who's trying to escape, trying to run away, trying to get to something better. Although she's been on the railroad for, 4 episodes so far, or I guess 3. The first one she technically wasn't on it. Um, she's been on the run this whole time. She hasn't really gotten to what she's after because it doesn't really exist so far from what we've seen. Um, and then he's going about this other way, which I believe is a way that's at least recently. I know it kind of started with like Black Panther, or maybe it didn't start with Black Panther, but was definitely highlighted in Black Panther, and it became a lot more mainstream, this way of thinking. But a lot of people glorify the people who go through this situation and decide to kind of take their destiny in their own hands in this way of deciding to die instead of going through the horrors in front of them, um, which is a pretty fucking metal thing to do. Like I get it. I mean, that's hardcore as hell. Um, but I feel like respect also has to be paid to the ones who didn't do that, who went through what they went through, because we wouldn't be here without them. And I think that's worth acknowledging. Not to belittle Jasper's uh, path. We all have our own destinies in life and that sort of thing. Um, but yeah, I think that's I think that's all I gotta say about five without like going into like, minute details and that sort of thing. It was a good one though. I enjoyed it. It was Jasper dies at the end. He does finally starve himself to death. Cora tries to drown herself. It seemed like she's kind of like getting into she kind of at a point is maybe deciding to uh like do the same thing as Jasper, like kind of take on his ideology, take on his personal revolution. But he dies and she doesn't. She's saved from drowning. And not only that, but she's then chained to him as he's dead for the night. And I think that, being that close to death in that way kind of, changed her mind or, helped her to understand, like, what she wants personally in this situation. I don't know. I'm saying stuff at this point. Um, but yeah, that's chapter 5, Tennessee Exodus. And soon for you, but in a little while for me, we will be visiting chapter 6, Tennessee Part 2. Stay tuned. Or don't. If you just wanted to hear this part, you can leave now, I guess. Or, yeah. You know what they say. Another day, another episode of the Underground Railroad has been watched. Um, I wanted to get this one done earlier than I got the other one done, but I got really busy today, so I'm recording even later than I usually do, so apologies in advance for that. But let's just go ahead and jump right in, shall we? I'm I feel like I'm not completely analyzing these to the best of my ability, not because of the timing, but simply just because I'm talking about them right after I watch them, and um, it's not a ton of time to process everything that I just saw. I'm not having a lot of time to sit with it. But that's just how it's gonna have to be for now, I guess. So tennis. This is chapter 6 of the Underground Railroad, entitled Tennessee. Uh, preamble, prologue, no. Per Proverbs, and there's a lot, man. There's a lot. These episodes are so jam packed with so much information. There's so much shit going on. Um, okay, so we start off where we left off. Uh, and Cora is still captive to Ridgeway. He's going home because his dad is sick and dying. The little boy he pushed down the well is a prominent part of this episode. Um, he's still around. He hasn't fully recovered. Um, there are some freed men, some black men who make an appearance and rescue Cora from a terrible fate. This show does this thing that I kind of appreciate that I haven't mentioned before, and I believe it's because I haven't experienced it this time around like I did the first time because I've already seen the show. But on the first watch through, without knowing what's going on, characters are often pitted in these situations where, like, just knowing the history, knowing the scenarios, you get these real uneasy feelings and you're being. You're like, oh no, I know what's gonna happen next, and it's gonna be bad, it's gonna be terrible. And thankfully, it never does happen or never gets, to that point. Um, maybe, possibly, it's like implied to have at some points, but it never explicitly happens or just doesn't happen at all, which I like because it still has like that feeling of like the feeling is there without having to actually show any of the stuff. Uh, but anyway, Ridgway's dad dies in dramatic fashion. You gotta watch this show. I feel like this should be a thing where like I'm talking to someone like after watching the show and be like, dude, what did you think about that? Instead of being like a recap kind of thing. Um, Ridgway was about to die, and then he just like the Mac is his name, the little kid. Well, he's not little anymore. He's like, I don't know, 20s. Um, he obliges Ridgway and goes to get him a whiskey. And the whole time you're thinking, no, dude, don't get him the fucking whiskey. Blow his brains out. But he doesn't, and Homer kills him. Homer, of all people. Homer is the embodiment of those of us who have completely accepted and been indoctrinated into the Western ideology. Um, Homer is unsavable. He is, black only in skin, and of course in like heritage or whatever. But you know what I mean. You get me. He's yeah, that's a whole thing. Um, Ridgway makes a very important speech in this episode, um, in a drunken, you know, uh, monologue. He goes on a little bit about manifest destiny and kind of just like the ideology of the nation, not only uh, the nation, but just Western ideology in general, just in Western civilization. And that is when speaking of people who do not fit into the standard of the mainly the white male, and of course also the white female to a lesser extent. I think about that Dave Chappelle joke where he says he's talking about white women and he says you were in on the heist, you just didn't like your cut. Anyway, that's beside the point. Uh, Essentially, the model is um, they're in this land and just they're just around in general to they're there to conquer and take what's theirs, that sort of thing, because everything belongs to them, and ordained by God. We know what manifest destiny is. But the thing that he says that was striking to me, the oh, bless me, sorry. Their what do you call it? What did I say before? The um, the model. So, did I say model? I'm saying model now. The model that they have is the first they will try to uplift, but when he says uplift, I mean we know what uplift means. It's basically the melting pot. It's the erasure of culture. It's what we saw going on in the South Carolina episode. It's the homogenization. Um, Uplift is to make everyone else white. And if we can't uplift, he says, then we subjugate, which is what we see in kind of like the slave era sort of thing. You know, um, yeah, subjugation. I don't really think I have to elaborate too much on that. It's subjugation. And if we can't subjugate, he says, then we exterminate. Um, which we also kind of see in the South Carolina episode with like the the population control and the forced what do you call it, uh, sterilization, all that, which is population control, but all that sort of thing. Um, and then just outright blatant murder and other such things. We learn the fate of poor Caesar, which is an unfortunate fate, but a very real one, echoed. And today, time and time again, I'm reminded of Emmett Till, for example. Um, Cora in the first episode, as they're escaping, accidentally, well, less accidental and more just in self-defense. Maybe her intent wasn't to kill him, but her intent was to, get away. But she does kill this kid. Everyone calls him a boy, but he's like, come on, late teens, early 20s. They do that thing where, a 19-year-old kid, a white kid is tried as a kid, but like a 16-year-old black kid's tried as an adult, that sort of thing. So the whole time they're like, oh, she killed this white kid. Everyone's fucking after her. They want her dead. Caesar was captured back in South Carolina. We finally get the through line to that when Ridgway explains in his drunkenness. He's drunk for most of this episode. Um, anyway, he explains that the mob broke into the jail where he was being kept, and broke in is used lightly, of course, because the sheriff let them in, because of course he did, because the entire system is against Caesar, who is of course innocent. He didn't do anything, except perhaps convince Cora to escape with him. But yeah, they tear him apart. They apparently they pluck the eyes from his skull while he's still alive. Like, they get gruesome. Thankfully, we don't have to see any of that. We just hear it told by drunken Ridgway. So who knows how much of it's even true or not? But I mean, come on, that's probably what happened. Um. So yeah, it's kind of unfortunate, obviously. But Caesar was kind of the reason Cora's on this journey. Anyway, she was kind of content to stay where she was, and he was the one who kind of spurred her along, and they had like this little relationship. And yeah, he's dead. He's very dead. Um, but she does meet more black folk, and they escape off in the end of the episode, and who knows where they're going next. I mean, we'll find out, but for now, like, we don't know. So yeah, we have the end of Caesar. We have you know what's his name, Harold? No, Horn. Uh, Homer. We have Homer at his worst. Um, Ridgway is drunk, and just he's just always at his worst. But he gives some insight. This honestly felt like, to me, felt like Ridgway and Homer's episode for sure. Um, More than the other ones, ironically, even though Ridgway had a whole episode about his backstory. But yeah, that's pretty much what I have to say about this one. Just like as a light synopsis. Again, it would probably be better if there was like a conversation going on, but it's fine that there's not. I'm really okay with it. Um, if if that shall happen, it shall. But for now, it's just me. Um, so yeah, that is episode 6. We got 2 more podcast episodes, which is 4 more episodes. Um, there's exciting stuff coming up. I know there's at least one part that I really want to talk about that I felt was important, that comes up in either the penultimate or the ultimate episode, the season finale. Um, I just want to say that I'm pissed that this show was only Emmy nominated, and I believe it was only Cora that was Emmy nominated, and kind of everything else was just left by the wayside. This was like the best show of last year, if you ask me. Like, completely stumped. What's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, it's not important. this is the end of the podcast now. Thanks for making it this far if you did. If you didn't, you're not hearing this message, so weird that I'm having this conversation with you. That I'm talking about this. Um, anyway, thanks for listening. Check out the next one, dropping in a week. Did you guys hear they're trying to get rid of daylight savings time? I was talking to someone about it today, and I was like, it's crazy how they passed that unanimously, but they can't even unanimously vote on lynching black people being a federal crime. It's pretty wild. But yeah, it's got to go through a couple more hoops, but that might be a thing. I bring that up because I'm recording this late Tuesday night, but for East Coasters, I don't know what time this app works off of, but it's technically Wednesday, so maybe this is actually a Wednesday release kind of thing. But anyway, yeah, that's all I have to say. I hope that you have a very good breakfast or have had a very good breakfast today. And if you didn't, if you skipped it, then you're compensated at some point, whether that's going to be like a nice good snack or a good lunch or a good dinner, or maybe just like, some good water or some fruit or something. I don't know. I hope you eat well today. Um, but that's going to be it for me. I will talk more in the next one, and you'll listen if you decide to do that. I'm making my choice, so you make yours. Anyway, good night, morning, after, day, evening. Goodbye.